Be tough times in this fantasy world. We have a pretty solid score, to be honest with you, a bit over 1,000 for the People squad, and still only gained a few ranks, so not really ideal at all. With 1,027, it shows that how many of the great teams are absolutely killing it. We'll have a look at them in a second, that top 10 rankings, but yeah, 1,027 improved a little bit, so 679 we're coming this week after sitting in the 700s the week before at 708. So yeah, a small improvement, as it goes to show how good everyone's going. A lot of 1100s and everything going on there. But yeah, we had a few guys that did really, really well. We brought in Brandon Smith. He got the 59. You had Crichton and Butcher in this team with 101 and 90 there. Obviously sitting there with Murray and Elliott's, for example, Tohu Harris and Payne Haas in that top mids and edges wasn't ideal. We finally got a good score from DCE, and then the scores from our wing fullbacks were completely solid. So to still only have just a little bit of a decent week with all these big scores shows that if you're just missing out one or two of these mids or edges, Elliott especially is a little bit more of a pod. Guys like Murray are sneaky pods, but the top teams do have him, for example. Payne Haas is owned by a fair few people, but I feel the top dogs didn't get on him. So very interesting with how this the People squad has gone this week. And thankfully for us, no injuries, which was the big worry considering we have 4 guys currently in our emergencies that aren't playing at the moment. So thankfully, we got 2 rounds to go, and having 0 trades remaining, we still have a decent 17. Joshy Curran with the 37 obviously wasn't ideal also. But some great scores up top again. So Mr. Will had 1,050, which keeps him in first place. I love the amateurs more, and Josh B had 1,088. And then you've got Will, who's dropped down to 4th. He had a 1,061. Sammy Boy 1,083 was taken over. That's taken over into that top 3. So Josh is only 12 points behind now, which is pretty exciting. It's great to have 2 guys in a great position up top here. Let's look at the squad values, almost 1 million ahead of where our People squad is, and we're in a pretty solid rank at 679. So it shows you where the differences are between the top teams. We are almost 1,000 points behind now. Pretty crazy. So you got Will in 4th, you got Josh S in 5th, Johnny H, or Johnny Hugh, I'm going to call him. Matt H in 7th, Connor S. We got Warren S in 9th, and Dylan in 10th. And I'll just have a quick scroll from 11 to 20 for those guys there. So yeah, pretty full on at the moment. If you're looking straight at the top 10, there's 20,953 all the way up to 21,281. So basically a 330 point difference between the top 10. So you'd imagine the only guys that could win at this stage, you should think would be 1 and 2. But if you pick a pod or 2 from Will and also Sam in 3 and 4, that you could definitely have, you'd have to make up 50 a week on those 2 guys, 50 to 65 a week to catch up. But very, very interesting there. And this means that our leaderboard in my fantasy competition is going to be pretty close as well. But that's that, guys. That's the People squad. We obviously can't make any trades right now, so just wanted to give an update on where we're at. And a goal of ours is to stay in that top 700. Well, I think that's a pretty good one. And let's move on to the head-to-head squad, which had an okay week, but interesting in terms of the matchups. Head-to-head preliminary finals was interesting. Mr. Ruben Garrick, still our profile picture. He's still in our team. We did hold that 1 trade, and that worked out fine for us this week. We used Salmon's 41, and we were potentially waiting just in case that we were going to have to trade out one of the big dogs, which fortunately for us, it looks like there's no real big issue in terms of scoring from any of our guys. But definitely an issue with scoring. Injuries with any of our guys. Ruben Garrick might have to be traded this week. I think the main issue we have here is that Brian To'o has been really scuffling, really struggling at this point. Kohler with the 49 had to start him, which you have the last bunch of weeks, and that was a good idea with him being at fullback. So hopefully with him staying there, we could use him and get some good work out of him for that last 2 weeks. So I think we're going to have to trade Ruben, keep To'o as some cover, and try and get someone a little bit stronger, anywhere up to 638, which will be interesting. So let's have a little look in that fullback position and have a little play at what we're going to do. So we could move Kohler down, so we could have centre or wing fullback. So just be aware of that. But that's going to be what I think we're going to have to do this week, just so we can get a bit of a better score. We got 1,002, I believe, last week. So let's just quickly check. Wing fullbacks at 638 and below. So we got Cobbo, Holmes, Johnston, Drinkwater, Brimson. So there's definitely some options. I think we can go to any of those guys and it's going to work out completely fine. Not for Luma's an interesting one. Stephen Crichton, Suali, that's probably as low as we should go. But that's that with the head-to-head score. So we got 1,002, I believe, which we'll check the leagues. That's how we went. Ranked 259. So not great this week. Didn't make any ranks, but it is what it is. So 1,003, and we lost a bunch of Bunty. So any the game matches we're losing here, guys, we're out of those head-to-head comps. And obviously the ones that has no matchup shown, I'm already out of them. So I had a couple of 3 pretty average weeks in a row. So we first in the Discord homies and thankfully won that one. We won the Phantom Broncos from 3rd, which was good. And we won the Cunning Stunts. Lost the Rookies and Pro. So definitely not great, but we're in 3 grand finals out of, how many leagues we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 leagues, 3 out of 8. So we're hoping for more, just considering how good our team has been all year. But unfortunately had a few rough weeks, and that's led us to this position. So yeah, considering we have 1 trade left, I think that's the way to go. Mr. Ruben Garrick, considering he's out for the year for one of those guys, and we'll work out based on matchups and team lists coming into this week. We'll have a little play around with that for those guys that are wanting to use their last trade heading into 2 remaining weeks. I think will be the play. We had Fafita and Offengawa who played really well. We obviously captained Murray, which cost us like 35 points instead of captaining Hines, which we have been very unlucky the last few weeks. We captained DCE a couple in a row and he was poor, and then he finally gets to 68 and we move off the captaincy and go to Murray, who has his lowest week in a long time. So that was not ideal. But To'o, not good. Murray, not great. The rest of them kind of okay. So still got the 1,000, but overall, literally a lot better. A lot better than my team, which we'll go through. Had so many 30s, unfortunately. Let's have a look at that now. Super frustrating this week for my squad. 916 was where we're at. We had 2 of our emergencies that we didn't play with Cola and Pole, who both had 49 points, which is just ridiculous considering they literally beat 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of our starters. No, 8 of our starters, including Dewey. So not ideal with that. That's kind of been a lot of my issue all year, getting very unlucky with just those guys doing well, and then I'll pop in the starting team. Just happened with Penasini a couple times. I started him, he'd get 17, and the next week he'd get 45 or 50, and I have him on the emergencies. So just reigning true with how this whole season has gone. But I'm being very optimistic, and this is going to turn around next year. I'm going to win this comp next year. I'm definitely going to get better than where I'm at now. Lost 450 ranks this week, obviously, with 916. Very, very poor. Obviously, missing out on Butcher and Crichton is a big issue. And my highest scorer was my captain, thankfully, and Nico Hines. That was good. We had Munster with 63. He's been amazing since picking him up. Payne Haas with the 32. So a couple of decent weeks, but again, hasn't been a superstar since we brought him in. Cotter only got the low 50s minutes. McInnes was solid. Elliott's had a couple of bad weeks in a row now. Reedy's just an up and down 30 and then 70, 30, 70. If you're lucky to get that 70 part, but it's definitely in his game. Thankfully for me, I've got plenty of options in terms of guys that I can play, but this is only helpful when there's injuries and you kind of can outdo other teams because they only have 15 or 16 players. So hasn't worked out too well. I have the 1 trade left, and the question now is are we going to use it, right? Is there anyone that's on the way up at the moment that's at a decent price? Like, do I just trade Reedy for someone I think who can score a bit better? He's obviously going to come up against the Broncos next week. How will he go? How will Tamalolo go? I just think he's been really poor. 567. I can use an extra 28k to get someone just under 600k. So probably the way I'm going to play it is actually use the trade and try and get someone a little bit better for an Elliott, a Tamalolo, a Marnie, something like that this week. I think the rest is fine. All the other guys are in a good position to score well in the coming week, but that's where my thoughts are at, and probably you should be with yourself. The only other question mark is if we use the trade this week, there's a good chance people are rested in round 25, so it might be ideal to use that 1 trade heading into next week. And just have a look at the guys that you have on your emergency. Are they going to play? If one of your players could be out, whether they're an Origin star, one of the stars in your obviously NRL team that they play for, if they're getting rested, will the player on your emergency come in for them? That's the other thing to think about as well. So yeah, just before you make that trade this week, just check out if you think you've got many players that could be rested, if they're where their team's situated on the table, a few things like that to think about before you make your decision heading into this week, round 24. 2 rounds to go, guys. I can't believe it. It's been a massive year. I think I've done like almost 500 videos or something. Almost 400 videos, at least 400 to 500 in this season, and obviously still plenty to go. So thank you so much for being here, guys. I appreciate all of you guys, and can't wait to be bigger and better next year. It's gonna be a lot of fun as we grow on this channel and in this community. I'm really excited for it, and I can't wait. See you guys.